everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here to review The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 3, Ghosts. And wow, I gotta say, I'm impressed with this episode. I'm honest completely when it comes to everything, and especially The Walking Dead. A show that's disappointed me a lot over the years. I think its main issue has always been that it's so open-ended. One thing that really, that a lot of people need to do when they're making a show or a movie, they need to plan out their ending ahead of time so that they can know where they're going to go. And with The Walking Dead, it may know where it's going to go in the short term with a lot of different storylines, but since there's no end, it always ends up disappointing me eventually in some areas and getting really bad sometimes. But with this episode, it really struck a chord with me. Wow. And this episode's called Ghosts. I don't know if there's ghosts in this episode, really. I mean, they're really hallucinations, to be honest. But anyways, what to talk about? I mean, it's funny because I always know what to talk about when I'm saying something negative. But whenever I'm talking about something positive, it's like hard to just contain my excitement and to just focus on one thing. I'll start off with the flaws just to get those out of the way, so that you guys can know my true feelings after that. So the only flaws with this episode is I felt like too many characters gave speeches. There was a lot of times in this episode where characters would give very condescending speeches about like, or like anecdotes, like, oh, in my life before this happened, and this happened, and it turned out bad. And what they're basically doing is like trying to communicate like you're in a bad position, you're in a bad place, you need to get better, improve yourself, whatever. And just there's like 3 or 4 of those in the whole episode, and I felt like you could have turned one into more of a confrontational, like a direct way of saying, you know, you're getting really bad. I don't want you to end up like this guy I knew in the war who was like this. Because that was the worst one. It was the gay couple. I think they're a couple. The doctor, or one of the doctors, I don't know, forgive me. Remember, I didn't watch season 9, so, but he talks about he knew this guy in the war who broke down, and I think like he killed himself or something, and he's saying that his boyfriend reminds him of that, and he basically just tells him with this antidote, and I think instead of doing that, he really just should have told him directly. I mean, that was a little too many times in this episode, but other than that, that's all the problems I have with this episode. So finally, and then let's just start off with the opening. You already have me intrigued and just completely glued to the episode because they have this montage, or they've been doing a lot of captions this season, which I actually really like with Civil War, where they do a caption to tell you where they are and everything. I like that. I think that's very considerate, especially considering how large this show is in terms of the size of the locations and everything, and they do this with the time. They'll go like 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that, and basically just non-stop hordes of zombies. And it's pretty suspenseful and intense, and it really brings you back to the old days. There's a lot of retro Walking Dead feeling I got from this episode. There's a lot of zombies, and there's a lot of great character moments. There's a lot of great dialogue. Nothing feels like filler, like they're just, oh, we gotta have a little comedy relief scene here. We gotta have a little romance scene here. Nothing like that in this episode. The whole episode was packed full of stuff. And I love stuff. And so they think it's the Whispers, and I like that the theme of this paranoia of, are the Whispers secretly doing things to attack us and then pretending they didn't. I really like that. But since this is a zombie apocalypse show, they also incorporate the zombies and the way that they do that with the hordes of zombies, and then we find out, spoiler alert, they did not send the zombies. And so that makes it even more horrifying, I guess you could say, because how many more zombies are going to come after this? It's going to be bad. So it actually brings up the issue of, should they have just let the fire go on? Because maybe the zombies would have just been attracted to the fire, and maybe it would have been like an easy hunting ground, like they'd be able to just go up to them and kill them all while they're set on fire or something. I don't know. But they bring up that issue. Maybe they were attracted to the fire or something, or maybe something else. But other than that, the main Whisperer, Alpha, wow, she is a great actress. I'm going to say that every episode she's in, as long as she keeps being as good as she is. Because in this episode, she has a great acting moment. And then as well, Carol and Alpha meeting and their little confrontation. Mwah, that was beautiful. That is peak Walking Dead right there. Top 10 scenes in Walking Dead recent history, ever since the first episode of Season 7. This is one of the greatest moments. And I love how how it's shot, this episode. Another criticism I've had of the show in general is the setting. I don't like the backwoods setting. I always liked how they might have had a goal to get to somewhere, and then they might get sidetracked in the forest, but there would always be this eventual goal. Like, that was my hugest problem with Season 5, was they started off like, we're going to Washington, and that is the end game of the show. But then that completely unraveled, and that got ruined. And so stuff like that. But with this episode, they do it like, they shoot it kind of differently. They have these, oh god, there's the stupid effing fake phone call. Okay, I'm just gonna ignore that. But they shoot a lot of stuff at night, and the night, the way that the night looks, it makes it look so differently compared to how it looks in the daytime. These back forests, these backwoods. And so I really liked how this episode was shot. And then we have Carol having these hallucinations. She doesn't want to sleep. And again, it's hard to connect with because of the son and everything. I can't remember him, but I do remember her having the daughter. And so I loved her having these hallucinations. Is she seeing certain things that are there, that might be there or not there? I love that. And then finally, let's just get past that because this is a long review all of a sudden. Let's get to my favorite part of the show. Negan! Wow. His scenes in this episode, talk about, oh my god, top episodes of Walking Dead of all time. This is one of them now. Because the stuff that they did with Negan in this episode, they're bringing him back. They're bringing him back as the villain or an anti-hero confirmed. Because him in this episode, he is so good at acting, and the stuff that they have him do. There's a certain part where he's holding a weapon in front of another character, and there's a light that's on the ground that's shining on him and the weapon, and it looks exactly like in season 7 episode 1 when he had that weapon and he's ready to kill people. And it looks so epic in that one moment, even though it's this like crappy backwoods area. It looks so epic just for a second. And his lines, I mean, everything that he says, you don't know if he's being like evil, like I'm secretly making a jab at you, or he's being honest, or what. And so I loved everything with him in this episode. And Eric, I think that's his name, the guy who played Red Skull in Infinity War and Endgame, he also shines in this episode because, to be honest, I'll be honest, I've not seen the second half of season 5. Season 6 I have not seen, and then I have not seen seasons 8 and 9. And so I have not seen him have any good scenes at all in The Walking Dead. And to me, this has his best scenes. He does a fantastic job in this episode, even though he is next to the most epic character in The Walking Dead of all time. Excuse me. And so, I like his arm too. Just fantastic. Fantastic exchange. And talk about old Walking Dead again. It gave me the vibe of when Tyrese was with Carol in the forest and they were forced to survive with each other that one night. They were in a cabin and she finally admits to him what she did. And then he says that he forgives her or whatever, but he'll never forget what she did, and like that's what this reminded me of, but better because it's Negan. Which I'm not a Negan fanboy. I mean, there's been some cringy moments with him slouching backward and stuff like that, but overall he is such a fantastic character, and this episode just continues with him. You don't know. You can't know until he gets in a position of power or something where he's able to really do what he really wants to do, because he could be still evil. And to be honest, I kind of hope he turns good, because they did this with the governor, who used to be my favorite character. They made him like an anti-hero for 2 episodes, and then all of a sudden he turned into a bad guy again. And so I really hope that Negan stays an anti-hero, because he was such a great villain, but you realize that like his villainness is like a hard shell for just, he needs to survive. He needs to adapt to the new world, and he's a bully. He's a bully, and it's an easy way to survive in a zombie apocalypse world when everyone's scared. And in this episode, Eric has to rely on him, and it's very intense for The Walking Dead. Not like intense in general, but for The Walking Dead it's intense. And so yeah, that's really all I have to say about this episode. There's also a great emotional scene with Eugene and Rosita, and that scene was very emotional to me. It was a very kind of sad scene, and I really liked that scene as well. But to be honest, as soon as I saw the scene where Negan had the crowbar in his hand, and he was talking to Eric, and he's like, "What are you gonna do to me if I don't put this down?" As soon as that scene happened, this episode was already getting an A-. And that's what I give this episode. I give it an A-. Not an A, not an A+, because of a couple little flaws here and there, but you know what? Those don't even deserve to be really talked about, because this episode is so strong. I love this episode. So I can't wait for next week now that we've finally gotten started with Season 10. I can't wait to see more of Alpha I'd really love to see Carol continue to shine, and I'd love to see Negan continue to shine, and also Eric, since he's finally gotten a scene where he's really stood out to me as much as all these other people have stood out at various points. So, thanks for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more Walking Dead videos. See you later, everybody!